Okay, everyone. So let me share my screen now and let's start from the slides. So
Here's a result from search.
okay, now you're able to see the screen, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, welcome to our session number 2 of our Power BI series. So just to recap what we did last time, we basically I just gave you an overview of what Power BI is and what is the main purpose of Power BI. Then we looked at how to install Power BI Desktop. So I showed you two ways. One way is to directly download it from the website, and the other way is to download it from the Microsoft Store. After installation, I gave you an overview of the user interface of Power BI Desktop. So we looked at the canvas of Power BI Desktop. Then I showed you the different tabs on top of Power BI Desktop, where we had different options related to this user interface. Then we also looked at different tabs. So the first one was the reporting tab, where you actually create the visuals. The second one was uh, the tables, uh, the data tab, where you actually can view the tables that you have imported into Power BI Desktop. And finally, there was the third tab where you actually can see the data model and create relations there. After giving you an overview of this desktop UI, we actually imported a CSV file on which we created a clustered column chart and applied some formatting to that chart. And at the end, I also gave you a small task, and hopefully, you guys uh, have completed that task. So by now, hopefully, you should have some familiarity with Power BI. For today, what we are going to do is we are going to work on data transformations in Power BI Desktop. So basically, we will be working on the Power Query Editor, which is a tool which is embedded inside Power BI Desktop. So if you remember from the last lecture, I actually talked about the different steps that we have to cover within Power BI. So the first step is to load the data and then apply, then basically do the cleaning and transforming of the data. So basically that is the part of data preparation. So this data transformation part is actually that step. So it is the first step of our sequence. So this is basically the data preparation part. So we are going to be using the Power Query Editor or inside Power BI Desktop. So let's actually open Power BI Desktop. So right now I've opened it. So before working on the query editor, the Power Query Editor, let me show you the dataset that I'm going to be working with. So it is this dataset, AdventureWorks dataset for BI. And I've uploaded this dataset to the classroom, so you can download it if you want to, and work along as I perform the different steps inside the query editor. So let's actually look at the data set. So we have these different tables. This is actually the AdventureWorks dataset. It is a hypothetical dataset just for provided by Microsoft, and it is used for usually for training purposes. So you can use this data to practice working on Power BI. So it is pretty useful. So this is the dataset, and we'll be looking at each table one by one when we import them into Power BI. So let's actually go into Power BI Desktop, and what we will do is we will go to this transform data option. So when you hover over it, it says use the Power Query Editor to connect, prepare, and transform data. So this Power Query Editor, as I said, is actually a separate tool which is embedded with the Power BI Desktop. And the main purpose of this is to perform transformations on your data. So that is what we are going to do. So for that, what I'll do is I'll click on this and it will open a new window. So here you can see that on top, you can clearly see that we have this Power Query Editor written. That means that we are inside the Power Query Editor. Now, if I go to the different view, the other tab, it says on top that we have Power BI Desktop. So this is the Power BI Desktop uh, tab, and this is the Power Query Editor. And here we will perform all the transformations that are necessary for this particular dataset. So let's actually import this dataset. So what I'll do is, since this is basically a CSV file, all of these are CSV files. So, or let's actually see. So yeah, it's basically CSV. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on new source. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this text/CSV. So it's basically for CSV files. So let's click connect. And let's actually open this folder where we have all the files. So it's basically AdventureWorks dataset for Power BI. Let's actually import this one. So this is the calendar CSV file. This basically contains all the dates. I mean, this is basically a dimension table which contains unique dates. So let's actually open this. So basically there is only one column inside this, and basically we only have dates inside this this table. So let's click OK. And now let's actually talk about some of the options that we have here. So if you look at our left, which is the queries tab, so queries option, or I mean where all the queries are displayed, this basically displays all the tables that you have imported inside your query editor. So right now I have imported only AdventureWorks / _calendar. On the right, you have properties. So here you can see the name of the actual table itself. I can also change this. So let's actually call this dimension dates. So by the way, are you guys familiar with dimensions and facts? Anyone? Can anyone tell me what dimension and facts are? Can anyone? If you guys are not familiar, I can actually explain later on what dimension facts are. But anyway, I can now change the name of this table as well. So right now the name of the table has been changed. Now if we actually look at the actual column, the dates column. So what we have is that this particular row should be a column, right? So what I can do is if we actually go to the calendar table itself, you will see that this particular row is actually the title of this particular column. But here you can see that this is not the case. So it's actually being considered inside the data. So what we can do is we can actually promote this particular row as the header or the title of the column. So what I will do is I will actually click on this and go to transformations and click on this particular option. So use first row as headers. Now you can see that we have the this particular column being named as the date column. Right now, the thing is that this particular column has the data type, which is of text type. So we can also change this. We actually have to change this because the thing is that if you want to work with dates, we would have to change this to a date format. So let's actually replace current, or should I say add a new step. So this will add a new step. But for some reason, this is, let's see. Okay, so I believe we have some sort of issue with the data itself. Okay, so let's actually work on this later on. Let me actually import other tables. So the thing is that we have other tables as well. So let me actually show you the table which we are going to import in the next step. So now we have another table, which is basically the customers table. Okay. So this particular table contains the information of all the customers. So firstly, we have the customer ID or the customer key. Then we have their prefix. We have their first name. We have the last name. We have their date of birth, marital status, whether they are married or not, their gender, email, what is their annual income, how many children do they have, what is their educational background, do they have a bachelor's degree, are they doing partial college, or do they have a high school degree, and so on. Then we have occupation, and are they homeowners, so do they own a home or not. So this is represented by yes or no. So let's actually import this data set. I'll come on to this later on. It's basically related to this. So basically, it's some of the dates are not converted into the data type inside this Excel file. So we'll come on to this later on. Anyway, so now we have this, and what we're going to do is we are going to import the customers data set inside this. So I'm going to click on new source. And let's actually wait for this. So again, this is a CSV file. So I'll click on text/CSV, and then I'll click on the customers dataset or the CSV file. So now it's going to say that it's basically giving me a what you say, a preview of the dataset. So I'm going to click OK. And now I have this customer table. Let's actually change the name of this table. So either I can do it from here. So I can call this customers. I can also change the name from here. So it's not a big issue. And now you might have noticed these applied steps, right? So basically, when you are inside the query editor, for each table that you import, so basically, whatever transformations that are applied to that table will be included inside this particular window. So these are all the applied steps with this particular customers table. So firstly, what we have is we have the source. So we have connected to the source, and you can see the path here. Then we have promoted headers. So basically, you can see right here that all of the column names are not correct. As we saw here that we had the birth date, marital status, gender, and so on. And also we had customer key, prefix. So if you look at this second step, what we have is that if you look at the first step, we can only see that once the source is connected, it won't actually show these column names as the actual headers. So what Power BI, what the Power Query editor did was it automatically applied this promoted header step to this data, this table. So this is that step, and you can see here that customer key has been basically customer key prefix, first name, last name have been all automatically promoted as the names of the columns. And lastly, we have the change type. So this step is basically changing the data type of all these columns. So right now, if you notice here that in the second step, what we have is all of these columns have the same data type, which is basically text. Or if you're familiar with SQL, it's basically like the varchar, or there's also text type there, or it's basically the string data type if you are familiar with other in any programming language. And you can notice here that if we go to the right, all of these data types are ABC, which is text type, and it is actually not the preferred data type for each column. Okay, so for instance, you see this birth date column. This should be a date column, right? So what what we need to do is we need to convert this to a date data type. Okay, so I'm not going to do it right now because Power BI or the Power Query editor has automatically done this step itself. So if you jump on to the next step, you can see here that this is the next applied step with this particular data set, or the table, the customer table. So now you can see here that customer key has been changed to integer data type or a whole number. It's this basically whole number. Prefix, it's basically text, so it's going to remain the same. If you look at the first name column, the last name column, the birth date column still hasn't changed. Let's actually see why is that the case. So if I change it to date, let's actually see. So again, I'm getting this error, and again the reason is the local issue probably. So we'll come on to these this issue with the dates later on. Let's actually let's actually cross this step and apply this change type again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these columns. So what I can do is I can select one column and then press shift and select this. So now all columns are selected. I go to transform, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on detect data type. So now it's changed to the actual data types that are required. But for dates, there's still some issue. We'll look at this later on. And the annual income, again, this has not been changed, and the reason for this is that this particular column has this dollar sign. So basically dollar sign is uh, being noted as a text, so that is why it's still in the text format. Then we have children. It is changed to the data type, which is the whole number. And finally, we have other options as well, other data types, which are again the text type. So now let's actually look at other tables, and what we're going to import is, let's import products table. So let's first open this. So let's actually wait for this and let's see what happens. So this is the products table, right? So basically this table contains all the information related to the products which are being sold to the customers, right? So basically we have the product key, which is basically the product ID of each product. Then we have the subcategory key. We have the SKUs, the product names, models, descriptions, um, product color, size, style. So, and finally we have the product cost. So what was the cost of the actual product? and what is the price that it is being sold at. So let's import this one, and I'll again go back to home, click on new source, and let's again wait for this. So again, I'll click on connect, click on products. Now, one thing you might be noticing is that I'm actually importing these tables one by one, which is actually pretty inefficient. So let's say if we have 50 tables that we have to import, which are again all CSV files, and those are present inside this folder. So it is pretty inefficient if I do it one by one, right? So it would take a lot of time. So let's first import this, and I'll show you a way where you can actually import these tables much more quickly. So it would actually save a lot of time. So as I said, let's actually import all of these tables together. So in order to save time. So what I'll do is, first thing is that now that we have these three queries or the tables, first thing is that let's delete them. So let's import them again. So I'm going to delete these. So you can actually right click here. I actually press delete button, right? So, but now what I'll do is I can right click here and press delete. And now let's import all of these together. Okay. So what I can do is I can again go to new source, and let's again wait for this. So now, firstly, we had this CSV file, right? So basically, this allows us to import CSV files one by one. So we have to select each CSV file and import it separately. But if you come down here, you have this folder option. So basically, this is present in a folder, right? So what we can do is we can import this entire folder, and then we can uh, we can basically import each table as a separate query. So I'm going to click on this folder option and click connect. So now it's asking for the folder path. So let's actually browse this, and since it's on my desktop, so if we go down, so we have this AdventureWorks dataset for Power BI for BI. So let's click OK, and now it's going to import the entire folder. And now you can see here in the preview, all of these files are now present. So basically we have this calendar CSV, customer CSV, product CSV, and so on. So we also have, we have now, you can see that we have three options. We have combine and transform data, we have transform data, and cancel. This particular option allows us to basically append the tables on top of each other and basically present a single table. For this case, it is not ideal because all of these tables have different structures. So calendar table, let's say, has only one column, which is a date column. Customer table has like 10 columns, product table has 10 columns, and all of these columns serve a different purpose. But in the case where you know that all of these tables have the same structure, the same purpose. So for instance, if I give you an example of the tables. If you see these three tables, sales 2015, 2016, and 2017, all of these tables have the same structure. What I mean by that is that all of them have the same column names, order date, stock date, order number, product key, and so on. And just to show you another table, which is basically products, which is sales 2016. Which is sales 2016. Again, it has the same structure. So the only difference here between these tables is that one table is showing the data of 2015, one is showing the data of 2016, and one is showing the data of 2017. So if you have a folder where you have the same structure, you can utilize this combine and transform data option. But for now, what I'll do is I'll click on transform data. Okay, so now we have this one query, which basically shows me the content, the names, the extension, date accessed, and so on. These fields are not pretty useful right now. The only thing that is useful for us is these all of this content and name. So now the question is, how do I extract the calendar table in a separate table, as a separate table, customer table as a separate query or a table, product as a separate table, and so on. So what I can do is I can right click here. I can copy, drill down, and this option you see at the bottom, which is add as a new query, right? So this will allow the calendar table to be added as a new table. So let's see what happens. And now you can see that we have extracted the calendar table. Let's click here, and you can see that we have the date table extracted from this particular folder. Let's do the same. Let's first change the name of this, because this is actually showing me the path. So let's change the name of this query. So let's call this dim date, or let's simply call this dates to keep it simple. So basically this table is only containing unique dates. So this is basically a dimension table. Let's do the same for other tables. So I'll click and I'll add this as a new query as well. So again, firstly, I'll change the name. So I'll call this customers, and let's actually double click here on the CSV file. And now you can see that the table has been added. Let's now do the same for other tables. So I'm just going to quickly do this. So I'm going to call this as products, and going to open this. So now the thing is, you can see that it's much simpler where as compared to the previous case where we were going to the new source one by one. We were clicking on the CSV option, text CSV option. We were importing, let's say, calendar separately, customers, and so on. So basically it was taking a lot of time. So this, if you have a folder where you have multiple files, you can simply import the folder. So it saves you a lot of time. So you can clearly see that it hardly takes me like 5 minutes to import all of these. So let's actually double click here. This is product category. Let's go back. And then we have this returns table. So we actually have talked about these tables, right? Dates, customer, products. So I'll import this first. Firstly, I'll open this table. So let's actually look at we actually looked at these tables, right? So date, customers, products, product category. We didn't look at the product category, right? So basically this table represents the different categories that each product falls into. So for instance, if you go back to product table, which contains the information of all the products, we have this product key, then you have the product subcategory key. We don't have the product category itself. And the reason for this is that firstly, we have, if you look at the hierarchy, firstly, we have the product category, then we have the subcategory, and finally, we have the products. So if let's assume that we have product 214, it belongs to the subcategory 31. And if you go to this subcategory table, which is basically representing all the subcategories that each product lies into, it basically lies into this helmets subcategory. And this helmets subcategory lies inside this product category, which is product category 4. And let's actually look at what product category equal to 4 is. So it's basically accessories. So the point here is that this particular product is basically part of the category which is called accessories. So we talked about categories and we briefly talked about subcategories. So this is basically representing the subcategories of each product. Then we have the returns table. It is basically the data of the returns. So whatever products have been returned by the customers, those will be filled here. So this is basically a fact table. It shows you the return date, the territory key, product key, return quantity. Let's finally import these. So or add these as new queries. So basically we have these three, 25, 2015, 2016, 2017. Let's quickly add these. And I'll call this sales 2015. Then we have 2016. And then what we are left with, we are left with these two tables. So let's quickly add these ones as well. So sales 2017. And then finally we have the territories. So basically this table represents the different countries, continents, from where the sales, from where the customers or I believe it is related to a customer. So let's actually see what this is. So I'll call this territory, and let's quickly open these. So basically, these are the different sales territories in which the sales are occurring. So we have the different regions, the countries, and the continents. So these are all the tables that we have. So we have dates, customers, products, all the way till the territories, right? So these are all the different tables. So now let's actually work with the sales uh, first. So basically we have these three: sales 2015, 2016, 2017. So now the thing is that we have three different tables, right? So the thing is that we can actually merge these together. I mean, we can have only one table where we have all the data of 2016, all the data of 2017, and all the data of 2015 merged together. So instead of having three different tables, why not merge these, or basically take a union of all these tables? So basically what we are going to do is we are going to append these tables on top of each other. So 2015 data is going to be appended on top of 2016, and 2017 and 2016 is going to be appended on top of 2017. So let's actually do that. And basically we haven't talked about all of these options, and it might be confusing because for beginners. But actually, the thing is that we aren't going to go through each and every option within this tab. So basically, we have different tabs. We have home tab, transform tab, add column, view, tool, and help. So we are going to go through the essential options that we have to use for this particular data set. The thing is that with time and with the practice, you will get familiar with each and every single one of these. So let's actually look at some of the options. So for instance, you might be working with a detect data type. So basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to automatically detect the data type of a particular column. So for instance, if I detect the data type of this column, it should change to a date data type, which is this one. Or for instance, if if you have another column which is, I mean, this is already in whole number, but let's assume that this is in text format, right? So if I click on detect data type, it will automatically detect the data type of this particular column. And then we also have other options. So for instance, we have the option to rename a column. So if I click on a column, you can see that I can rename rename the current column. So if I click on rename, I can simply say order date. So before it was without spaces, now it is with space. The other options that we can look at are, so let's say we have these different columns where we want to merge them. We want to basically concatenate them. So let's actually go to this products table, and let's actually merge these particular columns. Let's say I want to merge product SKU, product name, and model name. So what I can do is I can go to the transform tab, and or should I do, or should I go to, I believe I need to go to add column. So I can go to add column, and basically what I can do is I can merge the columns. So based on a space. So basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to concatenate these columns. So if you're familiar with SQL, this is a common option that you use. So it allows you to combine these results together, and these three results, these three columns will be separated by a space. So let's actually click OK. So now you can see that I have a new column which is added at the end. So it's basically this column. Before we actually talk about, we further talk about these options, I want to I want to tell you the difference between transform tab and the add column tab. So what the thing is that many of the options present in transform tab are also present in this add columns tab. The only difference between these two tabs is that the transform tab allows you to make any changes within the column without adding a new column. So for instance, if I want to change the data type of this column product subcategory to, let's say, text data type. So if I look at the options on top, so right now you see here data type, which is whole number right now, and which is basically, you can change it from here, but I'll change it from here. So let's change it to text data type, and you can see here that the data type has been changed to text data type, right? But if I want to, let's actually revert this. So if I want to change this to a new data type, if I want to add a new column with a data type text, so what I'll do is I'll go to add column, and I'll look for the same option, which basically allows me to add this as a new column after applying a transformation. So the thing is, for this particular option, which is changing the data type, I don't believe we have an option available in the add column tab. So let's assume that for this particular tab, this particular column, what I want to do is I want to add a new column which will extract the first character of this particular column, right? So what I can do is I can go to the extract option, click on the first character, and how many starting characters you want to keep. Let's only extract one. So basically only one character has been extracted from this, right? So you can see here that this add column allows you to add a new column after applying a certain transformation. So always the new column will be added at the end. So before before we proceed, do you guys have any questions till now? Is there any sort of query or confusion do you have, or should I can proceed?
I don't have a question.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I believe we can proceed. Okay, so now you can see here that we have applied different steps, and basically these steps are added. So the thing is that these whatever transformation you apply here, so let's say I apply another transformation, I change the data type back to a whole number, so I can do it from here. So now you can see that the step has been added, and these steps pile up whenever you apply a certain transformation. So you can also remove these steps. So for instance, I can remove this step, I can go back to the previous steps. So basically what we did was we actually had this, we actually were, when we imported this product tab, we were at this change type, right? So let's actually remove these. So now we are at the changed type steps. So basically these steps are added every time you apply a certain transformation, or maybe if you add a new column. So these actually contribute a lot to the report performance. So let's say you have applied 20 different steps in this products tab. This will affect the loading time of the report. So you need to be, if you have a lot of data, you need to be very careful with each step you perform here. So this is actually pretty important. So let's actually start to transform this data set. So let's actually start with the customers first. So now what I want to do is, we were actually talking about the sales 2015, 2016, 2017 first. So we'll come to this later on. Now let's first go by one and perform different transformations on these different tables. So firstly, let's come to customers table. And basically, what I want right now is that I want to concatenate or merge these three columns, right? So basically what I want is one column which shows me Mr. John Yang. I don't want to see these separately. Similarly, for the second customer, I want to see Mr. Eugene Huang, Mr. Ruben Torres, and so on. So as I said, we can concatenate these or merge these together. So for that, what I'll do is I'll select these three columns. So for that, I can press Shift and select these three. And now if you come on to the top, we have the transform option. I don't want to apply transformation only. I want to add this as a new column. So what I will do is I will click on merge columns. And since we have to separate these based on a space, so basically we should have Mr. then space John, then a space Yang. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a separator, which is a space. And then I can change the name of this column, which is optional. Right now it will be called as merge, but I'll call this as full name. So let's click OK. And now if you go at the end, you can see that we have these names merged together. So we have the full names along with their title. So now this looks fine. But there is one thing that we have to fix. So basically, if you go down, not all of the customers have titles. So for example, if you consider Alejandro Beck, this customer does not have any title. If you go down further, we also have this customer, which is Wendy Dominguez, or also does not have a title. And if you look at this particular full name, you can see that there is a space here, right? So for instance, if some new person is searching for Wendy Dominguez in this column, they wouldn't be able to find them. So for example, if I type Wendy, so basically this was able to find me, maybe because there's Power BI has updated this, but the thing is it's better to remove the space, because maybe right now here you might be able to search this, but let's say you want to search this inside at the Power BI desktop, which is this one, this window. So if you go to data, when the table is here, you want to search it, you might not be able to do so. So the better thing to do is to remove these white spaces, right? All the white spaces which are present here on the left and also on the right. So what I can do is that I can actually trim these white spaces and remove any white spaces which are on the left of the text and also on the right of the text. So for that, what I'll do is, instead of going to add column, I'll go to transform, and there should be an option to basically trim this particular column. So let's actually let me just so basically I just want to see the difference. So what actually happens? So for that, the trimming option is actually present here. So you go to format and you click on trim. And now you should be able to see all the white spaces being removed from this data set. And you can see here that that particular white space has been removed. So if you are familiar with SQL, this is just like the trim function. This is basically a combination of left trim and right trim. So this will basically remove the white spaces from your text. Let me just cross this step once. You can also, what you can also do is that instead of going here, you can right click on this column, and you should have an option to basically trim the text. So let's actually try to find out. And you can see here that inside the transform, you can select this trim option. And now it should be able to trim the text. So this was related to this particular column. And now what I want to do is the next thing is that I want to convert this particular column into a whole number. So you see, because of this dollar sign, I believe it's because of this dollar sign that this is not converted into the whole number automatically. So let's actually try this first, and let's see. So now here you can see that we have error. And why is that error occurring? So we couldn't convert two numbers. So basically we have this it's probably due to this dollar sign. So let's actually first remove this dollar sign. So let's actually cross this step and click on this annual income column. So what we can do is let's click on the extract option. So on transform, I'll go to extract, and we have this option. We have different options, right? So we have the length, so we can extract the length of this particular text. So it's basically 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 characters within this text. We can extract the first. We can extract the characters from the left side, from the right side. We can extract the range. But here, what the useful option is to extract text after delimiter. In this case, the delimiter should be a dollar sign. So let's actually see. So if I press dollar sign and click OK, so now you can see that we have extracted text after the dollar sign. So now it should be able to convert it into a, uh, a whole number. So let's see. So now we have the dollar sign removed, and let's actually convert this to a whole number. So I can either do it from here, or I can go to transform and change the data type to a whole number. So let's see. And now you can see that this particular column has been converted into a data type, which is the desired data type, and that is the whole number. Okay, so this option was pretty useful. And now let's apply another transformation on this particular data set, and I basically want to add a new column. So what I'll do is I'll basically compare these annual incomes. So what I want to do is basically, if a person has annual income, so let's say if this is the customer, right? Customer key, this customer, Mr. John Yang. If the customer has annual income greater than 100,000, I want to categorize those customers as high income customers. And if their salary is greater than or equal to 50,000, I want to categorize them as medium income customers. And for the categories, for the customers below 50,000, I want to categorize them as low income customers. So let's actually add this new column. And what I'll do is I'll go to add column. And basically we want to add a column which has certain conditions. So for that, what I'll do is I'll click on this conditional column option. Okay. And let's call this column as income category. So now what I can do is I can apply the condition on the column. So the column that we will be using is the annual income. So if annual income is equal to or greater than, if it's greater than or equal to 100,000, then show me high income. Else, if the annual income is greater than or equal to 50,000, so for that we don't really see another option apart from this add clause. So this will basically add the else if option. So the first statement says that if annual income is greater than or equal to 100,000, then the output should be high income. Else if the annual income is greater than or equal to 50,000. So basically, if annual income is between 50,000 and 100,000, it should be medium income. And finally, for the remaining parts, we don't have to add an else if, because we only have one option. I think I pressed escape by mistake. So let's add this quickly again. So income category. So annual income greater than or equal to 100,000. High income. Else if annual income is greater than or equal to 50,000. Medium income. We don't have to add this last clause. We'll just for the remaining customers, it's pretty obvious that the remaining customers should be in the last category, which is less than 50,000. So we'll call them low income. So let's press OK and let's see what happens. And you can see here that we get these options. So how can this column be useful? So let's say we have these high income customers and we want to market certain products which I mean they can buy. So we can actually filter this down to, let's say, high income only, and we can basically market certain products that they would want to buy. So the high income customers maybe want to buy some expensive products, or maybe they have certain preferences. I mean, you can perform different analysis with this. So just to verify this, so you can see here that 100,000, we said that if the annual income is greater than or equal to 100,000, the category of income category of these customers should be high income. And let's say if we have some other customer, let's say if this is $130,000, they're also in high income. Let's actually, and you have noticed here that once I've applied a filter, so there's a step added into this. So this is not like a usual filter that you might use, let's say in Excel, just to see your data. Once you've applied all the transformations here, and you will be loading this data inside Power BI, right? Power BI desktop. So all of the transformations will reflect into Power BI desktop. So for instance, if I've converted this into high income and then loaded this data inside Power BI desktop, I will only see the customers who have the income category equal to high income. So the remaining categories will be discarded and only the high income customers will be loaded. So, I mean, I don't want to do that right now. I want to keep all the customers. So let's actually cross this step. We have added all these, we have added the income category now. We have added the full name. And now what I want to do is I want to, since we have this full name, right? What I want to do is I want to remove these particular columns, these three, the prefix, first name and last name, because we are already utilizing this full name column, right? And I want to load this full name column into Power BI desktop. So I don't feel the need to keep these three columns right now. So I'm going to remove these three columns, and you will notice here again that another step will be added into this particular query, which is the customers. And also one thing to note here is that all of these steps are different for each table. So right now you have noticed here that we have these steps. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps. But let's say I open the territory table, and you will notice here that the steps are different because these steps that I've applied here are only applied to this table only. So all of these steps are independent of each query. So whatever steps I apply inside, let's say the products table, will not be applied to the customers table. And let's say if I apply certain steps to the territory table, they won't be applied to other tables. So let's go back to this customers table. And let's remove these three. So I'll press shift and select these three. What I can do is I can go to transform, or maybe what I can do is instead of searching for this particular option, I can simply right click here and I can press remove columns. There is an option here. There should be an option on inside the transform. But right now, I mean, it's I can't really look for it. Or maybe it's in home tab. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention, we actually talked about transform and add column, right? So basically, inside the transform tab, you just apply transformations and those will be applied to the column without adding a new column. Whereas the add column option allows you to add a new column after a transformation has been applied. This home tab contains general use transformations. So for example, if you want to remove a column, if you want to select a certain column. So for example, if this particular table has 30 columns, right now it's pretty simple, right? So basically you have like 10, 12 columns and you can easily navigate to a certain column that you want to select. But let's say you have like 30 or 50 columns and you want to find a certain column. So what you can do is you can go to this choose column options, and you can basically go to that certain column. So you can also search for that column. So let's say I want to search for income category, and I can simply go to that particular column. So this is pretty useful if you have a lot of columns inside a particular table, and you want to uh, navigate to that particular column. Or the other option is to choose columns. Basically, this allows you to remove certain columns from your query. So let's say I just, in this particular query, I only want to load customer key and birthday. I only want to keep these two columns. The rest will be removed. So you can see here that we have removed all the other columns. We have only selected these two. One other way of doing this is that you just select these two columns. So I will press these to select these two columns, and I just select remove other columns. So this will basically remove other columns, and it will only keep these two columns. Anyway, these options you will get familiar with time, definitely. Of course, we're not going to go through each and every single one of them, because it's going to become pretty overwhelming for you. So as beginners, we'll go through the important steps that we can utilize, and the more obvious ones. So that you can become comfortable with Power BI query editor, Power Query Editor. So now we have removed these columns, and now what I can do is that now the thing is that we have all these steps, right? We can also change the names of these steps. So for instance, if you have let's assume you have 20 different steps, and you have this removed column steps repeated 3 times. So for example, if I have removed birth date, let's actually remove this. Or maybe let's now the thing is that it is actually added inside this particular step inside this previous step. So let me just remove this first. So let me show you another example. So for instance, if I'll actually come to this particular code that you see right here for each different step. We'll talk about this. This is actually also a key part of Power BI, of Power Query Editor. And the thing is, I just want to show you a different step that I can add right now. So let's say I want to change the data type of this particular column. So let's change it to text. This has now changed the data type to text, and now let's remove this particular column. So let's remove this. And now you can see that we have 2 different steps. So firstly, we have the removed columns and remove column ones. If I see this on a regular basis, the thing is that I can't really identify which columns it has removed. I can identify by reading the actual code. So here you can see that I've removed the first name, the last name. But let's say I don't want to see each and every single step by opening them one by one. So here, if I open this, I can see that I have removed the birth date. So in order to improve the readability, what you can do is you can also change the step name. So what I can do is I can right click here, click on rename, and I can type here removed prefix first name and last name. So now this particular step is telling me that I have removed the prefix first name, last name, and this particular step can tell me that I have removed birth date. Again, this is changing the names of these particular steps is not necessary, but it is good that you do so, because it's going to improve the readability. So now here you can also see that we have different change types. So we have change type here, we have change type here as well. We have change type here as well. So you can't really tell by just looking at these applied steps. You just have to go to each and every single step and read the code itself. So Let's actually remove this step as well. Remove this. And now, before proceeding, does anyone have any queries right now or any questions? You can let me know so that I can further proceed. So anyone has any questions or okay? No questions. Okay. Okay, so let's proceed further. And you might be wondering what this particular code is. So basically, this code is called M code, and it is particular to the Power Query editor. Okay, so it's good to learn this, but as beginners, it's not necessary that you learn this. Um, the thing is that once you apply each step, this code is automatically generated. So this M code, or I believe it is called mashup code or mashup language. This code, once you apply a step, so let's say I apply a new step, right? So let's actually apply a step again. Um, and as an example, again, I'll use this, and you'll notice that for this particular case, I'll again keep it as text. So now a new step has been generated, and you'll also notice that a new um, step has been, or a piece of code has automatically been generated. So let me just simply explain this, what this is. So basically, it's the table dot transform column types. So this transform column types is basically a function. Now this hash remove prefix, this is basically referencing the previous step, which is this particular step. So basically saying that it will basically perform this change type step after this removed prefix or first name, last name step. Remove prefix, first name, and last name. So basically it's the complete step. So this hash means it's referencing this previous step. And after that, it says that change the change the data type of the customer key column to type text. Okay. So, I mean, in this case, it is pretty straightforward. Let's actually look at some other options. So let's look at this step. So now what we have is we have table. So we have selected this table dot remove columns. So remove columns is a function which allows you to remove columns. And again, we have this reference. So it's basically referencing this previous step. So basically it's saying that in this particular step, after this particular step, which is added conditional column, and you can see the name as well here as well as here. We will remove prefix, first name, and last name. And if I want to just remove, let's say I want to remove only prefix and first name, I can simply deselect or remove last name from here. And now you can see here that after this, I can see the customer last name appearing. Let's actually go back to this step and add the last name. So the important thing is that if you want to highlight columns, you have to highlight them in double quotes. So I will write, let's actually see what the name of the column was. So it was last name. Okay. So I can type last name and let's press OK. And finally, we have the change type. Let's look at one other step in between. So trimmed text. Okay. So again, we are using the function transform columns, and it's referencing the previous step, which is insert merged columns. So what we are doing is that we are applying the trimming function, which is text.trim, to this full name column. The thing is that you don't necessarily have to memorize these functions. All of this is pretty self-explanatory. As beginners, you really don't have to focus too much on understanding the actual syntax. The and the thing is that sorry. So I was saying that you don't have to memorize these functions or all of these, because these are self-generated functions. So once you are more experienced with them, you can sometimes apply changes. So for instance, you can apply changes inside the M code itself. So here I've applied a step where the data type has been changed to text. So what I want to do is I want to change it back to integer type. So let's actually see. So what types do we have? So we have int type. So let's actually see if this changes or not. I'll press OK, and I believe I've selected the wrong data type. So let's see. So type, before it was text. Let's actually see another. Okay, so it was basically integer 64 dot type. Okay. So int 64 dot type, and let's actually add this step. Type identifier is invalid, but anyway, you get the point, right? I believe I'm selecting the wrong data type here. But the thing is that you can actually change the M code itself once you are more familiar with this code. So again, as beginners, you don't have to worry too much about writing this yourself, because these steps are added automatically, and also the code is generated automatically. One last thing I want to show you before we proceed to the next tables, the product category, and so on. We will go to the home tab, and basically I also want to see these steps all together in one single piece of code. So for that, what we have is the advanced editor. So I go to home tab, I have this advanced editor option, and basically what we have is all of these steps that I've applied here are added to this advanced query editor. Sometimes let's say you want to make certain changes on the go, you can actually utilize this particular query editor, Power Query, the query editor, or the advanced query editor, where all the steps are highlighted. So here you can see that first we imported the data from source, then we actually imported the CSV file itself, then we promoted the headers, changed the types, inserted merged columns, trimmed the text. We extracted the text after delimiter. So this was a step where we removed this $sign, and then we applied further steps. Okay. So for instance, I just want to give you a small example. Let's say that I change the location of this particular folder from desktop to, let's say, this disk. So if I place it in D, so now what will happen is let's actually see. So let's actually place it here. Control V. It's actually opened in a different. Okay, so it's open here. The Excel file. Let's close these. Don't save. Let's close this. Okay, let's do it again. And okay, it's open in another file. The thing I wanted to show you is that you can actually, let's say that right now it's placed in desktop, right? So if I change it to some other directory, then you can change the source folder file from this particular directory to the new directory. And you can also do the same here. And then your queries will run perfectly. But let's say if you want to change something else, so let's assume that you want to, if we talk about the merged columns, right? The merged columns, the full name. So we added a new column, full name, which combines the prefix column, first name column, and the last name column. And we use the space to separate these. Let's say you want to separate these three columns with the help of a dash. So you can do it here, and let's see what happens. Now the thing is that it should show me a dash. You see, Mr. and then hyphen John, then hyphen Yang. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can either you can either change the steps from here, or you can change these steps from here. So I'm just going to replace this with a space. And now it should be according to our requirement. And before we go on to the break, let's actually take the break at what time is it? I believe it is 10:30 in your time zone. So let's take a break at 10:30, then we will continue at 10:45. So before we go on to the break, let's assume that I want to delete a step from the middle. Okay. So let's say that I delete this step. So it gives me a warning. So it says that, are you sure you want to delete this step? Deleting this step may affect subsequent step, which could cause your query to break. So you need to be careful with this because let's say if I delete this, it might break my query, or it might not do anything with that particular the queue with the particular query. So let's say if I delete this step, what will happen is that, so again, and now you see here that full name is now showing me error. And the reason for this is that we had promoted certain headers, and there was some sort of dependency between these steps. So if the steps are not dependent upon each other, so for instance, firstly, I've applied a step on this particular column. I've changed the data type of this particular column, and then of here, for example, and then I've applied a change with this column at the end here. And what I will do is, if I delete the step that I've applied here, it will break this step at the bottom. So it will basically break the query. But if these particular steps are independent of each other, it won't break the steps at the bottom. So you need to be really careful with the steps that you delete here. Now the problem here is that I have to, and the other thing is that you can't really press Control Z to make make the steps come back. You have to add those steps again. So that is something I will do. So firstly, we had this source navigation imported CSV. We want to add this step now where we promote these headers. So what I'll do is I'll select all of these columns. So I'll press Shift, go to transform. Then what I'll do is use first row as headers. So let's actually do that. Use first row as headers. Are you sure you want to add the step? Yes, I want to add this step because this was already present here. And now you should be able to see that this is totally fine. So now we have the promoted headers. And one last step that we didn't add, we removed, was we actually removed the detect data types. So let's again select these and detect data types. So it will automatically assign the data types to the this particular query. So let's actually click this. Are you sure you want to add this step? Yes, I want to add this step. So now the data types are fine. And again, we have one particular, okay, so we have an insert merged column, trim text, extracted. So I believe this is fine. Now one thing we will do is I will actually fix this, because this is not related to the data itself. It is actually related to the actual data type. So this is basically related to the locale. So this is actually a sort of a glitch that is present inside Excel. So what happens is that if I, let's say if I change this to the data type date, so let's see what happens. It basically gives me the dates in this particular format. So basically some of the dates are converted, but others are showing error, because one reason is that the data type is not being detected properly inside this particular column. So let's actually click filter. You can see here that we have the hierarchies, but at the bottom we have the separate dates. This shouldn't be happening here, but it is happening right now, so I have to fix it. And so let's actually do that after the break. So you can see that here, some of these dates are here, some of these dates are here. So this needs some fixing. So right now it's 10:30, almost 10:30. I mean, it's so let's actually take a break. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can meet at 10:45. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.